Well, seconded by Deputy Mayor Locke. Are there any additions to the agenda that are not already contained in the documents on your digital iPad? Do we have anything in the way of paper? Anything to add? Hearing that there is none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. First item on the agenda would be the minutes and action report of our meeting from July 10th. This would be the minutes of that meeting. I'll accept a motion that the minutes be accepted as presented. Moved by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Aker. Are there any errors or omissions to be noted in the minutes of our public meeting of July 10th? Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, we will call the question. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. Business arising then from the minutes of July 12th. Business arising? Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. Well, yes, you guys are... Yeah, but John, when have you ever cooperated to this degree, you people? If Councillor Tessier is not here, that's what's coming down. Is that it? That's it?
Now we're good.
Okay, we're good on that. Why won't I go back to agenda? Uh-oh, here we go again. Come on. Go back to agenda. Here we go. All right, proclamations and presentations. We have none. We will start then with correspondence. We do have a piece of correspondence from Jumpstart Canada. This is in reference to the Canadian Tire Jumpstart Charities. They are passing on their thanks for our proclamation on behalf of the City of Mount Pearl, recognizing their 4th annual Jumpstart Day, which took place on May 26th. Are there any comments at all that anybody wishes to address as it relates to that piece of correspondence? Hearing none, we do have a letter from the Minister of Environment and Conservation, the Honourable Terry French, as well. And this is in reference to the annual general meeting held in Quarterbrook this past November, where we debated several resolutions submitted by our membership, and they were writing today to update us on the resolution 2-2011, updating of IDF curves submitted by the City of Mount Pearl, and the copy of the resolution is enclosed for our information. Does anybody have a comment on this letter at this point in time? Has it been reviewed, and does it require a response on our part at this point? They're asking if we could they would appreciate if we could provide them with an update on this issue. Actually, it's a copy to us. It's our letter. It's CC'd to us. It's all right. Okay, thank you. Yep.
What I will speak to what MNL is doing, Your Worship, is they're contacting the municipalities. If government haven't responded to the resolutions that have come forward, they're being proactive and saying, we want you to take action. This came in from a municipality, and then it only CCs the municipality that brought the motion forward, brought the action forward, and to try and get a response back from government that way.
Fine. Thank you very much. Any other comment? Hearing none, we'll move on. We do have a response to our letter we wrote on April 3rd at Council's request to the Honourable Minister of Human Resources and Skills Development for Canada, Diane Finlay. She has responded to us, and I don't know that there's anything else for us to say at this point in time, but I always get a charge out of this. This is relating specifically to the Service Canada Centres for Youth, which, as you know, they closed, including the ones that were here in Mount Pearl. And the very first, or the very second sentence, because the first one simply says, pleased to respond to your correspondence. The second one says, the Government of Canada is improving the way it does business to better address the needs of today's youth, including helping them prepare for, find, and maintain meaningful employment. So apparently the less help we offer, the better off they are. It absolutely fascinates me, but there you go. Anybody with a comment or anything on that beyond my snarkiness?
No, we support your snarkiness. So.
Okay, they support the snarkiness. That's all for correspondence. We'll then move on to our first committee report today. That's our Public Works Committee. Councillor Walsh, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. The first 4 items on the agenda for Public Works this week are actually all tenders. I have to take my glasses off to read it.
Me too. Well, it's terrible.
That's really confusing me. Anyway, the first one is road salt, and it's hard to think about that this time of the year, but before you know it, it'll be upon us again. We had a couple of submissions for tenders, Avalon Coal and Salt and A. Harving Company. The low bid was Avalon Coal and Salt at $107.35 per metric ton, including HST, and we're recommending, Your Worship, that we go with the low tender there. They were compliant, and I so move.
It is moved by Councillor Walsh, our alternate today. Replacing Councillor Tessier is Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Aker. Any question or comment?
How many metric tons do we use?
Man,
Last year.
we use a lot. Jerry, have you got the, you're nodding like you have the answer. Mr. Randall, how many metric
anticipating
tons?
the question.
We use approximately 6,000 tons, Deputy Mayor Locke, every year.
6,000 at $107 a pop.
And that number this year represents approximately a 6% increase in our unit price for salt compared to last year.
Just never stops, does it? Good.
Oh,
We'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded,
thank
motion
you.
carried.
Well, we got that one salted away. We're good to go.
Okay, the first official
Sorry.
pun of the meeting.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Side
Don't
loading
apologize.
garbage compactor, Your Worship, with the automatic, the auto arm, the RFID system, and the cart tipper. We had one bid, and there is only one provider for this equipment, and that is Saunders. Their cost is $362,000, $345.80. That includes HST, and we're recommending that that be awarded to Saunders Equipment, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Aker. Questions? All in favor? Motion carried.
Garbage trucks are expensive, Your Worship.
Boy, are they ever.
They are. Light-duty tractor and excavator attachments. We had 3 bids on this tender call, Your Worship. The low bid did not qualify because they didn't have the rollover protection system. That is mandatory on our equipment. The other 2 bids did qualify, and we're recommending that we go with the low bid, which was the lowest qualified bid, I should say, which was Newfoundland Kubota at $37,433.51, including HST. Hydraulic lift gate. What's this used for, Mr. Director?
That's used in the back of various pickup trucks. That's one truck we're looking at putting it on right now, mainly to lift things like lawn mowing equipment and what have you into the back of the truck.
Okay, I meant to ask that earlier. The lift is $3,271, HSD included, and again, we had just one bid for that particular piece of equipment, and I so move.
Moved and you've moved both at one time, right?
Yep.
Moved and seconded by Councillor Aker. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
Just a little update again. We continue to provide updates on the automated system until we have full implementation, Your Worship. Phase 1A and now 1B are underway. Generally positive feedback. I think we're receiving much of the same feedback in 1B that we received in 1A. The fact that it's new, the whole idea, as you recall, of going to 1B was to deal with some of the challenges that are presented on the hills and slopes, but we're actually coping reasonably well with that. Tender for the remaining carts has been advertised, was advertised actually last Saturday. That's July 21st, not June. The Public Works is targeting the start of the delivery of carts to the remaining residents sometime in September, Your Worship. We're hoping to get those started. And it's probably going to take 4 or 6 weeks at least to try to get those out and circulated throughout the city. Bulk garbage continues in the 4th week of bulk garbage collection. Just one more week remaining in this cycle, going reasonably well. But of course, it certainly does put a lot of pressure on our workers and equipment at this time of the year. Because we're dealing with things like annual leave and other requirements related to construction as well. So it is a fairly taxing in terms of the workforce and the equipment. Yeah, it's difficult, but of course the weather is very conducive for that sort of work. But it's hard to deal with it in the heat. You're right. Used tires always has been an issue. They can create obvious fire hazards and, of course, challenges for people storing them in their garage, shed, all of that sort of thing. As they're collected now, our staff are delivering used tires to an external private facility and then transporting the tires to MMSB site. MMSB won't accept these tires if they're not cleaned and sometimes if they're stored outside, they're filled with liquid materials, water, everything. Sometimes they're actually put to the curb because they're worn out and they're still on rims. They won't take them in that condition. And of course, we won't take them either. So if you have your tires to put out, put them at the curbside. We will take them. We will forward them to the external provider, but make sure that they are cleaned and in reasonably good condition. Finally, Your Worship, our staff continue to do patchwork on streets and lawn repairs. This is not part of our overall capital works projects or repaving of streets, but just filling of potholes, some of the areas that needed attention, and also the lawn repairs as a result of winter snow clearing operations. We were a little later getting off the mark because of late access to sods this year, I think was the main reason for that. So that's continuing and should clue up at least the lawn repair portion of it until we're about ready to tear them up again, and then we'll start the whole cycle over again. So that's it for Public Works.
Thank you so much. Next committee, Community Services. In Councillor Tessier's absence, Deputy Mayor Locke. Councillor Stoyles will serve as second.
Just a quick question on the used tires. They're only taking on bulk garbage, yes?
No.
No, because they're a recyclable element.
The tires now can be put out with your regular weekly garbage, can't they? Well, that's what my understanding
My
was, but
understanding
if
is
if the director doesn't know, I guess we're in hard shape.
We've always
Yeah,
had
check.
a call ahead.
We'll have to provide that answer. I thought that
Just stand.
was the new policy.
Yeah, you can always call ahead and get that.
All right. You can check into that. I was saying, I just tweaked my
That's a
back
great-
and I didn't even run the Telly 10.
That's a great question.
Who ran Telly 10 here?
Lucy.
And
Jason as
Jason.
well.
You ran as well, Jason?
Yes, it is.
I was impressed to see Mr. Silver at work yesterday after running the Telly 10. Well, he was very, kudos.
I saw him Sunday at the City Days, and
We were at City Days all day.
I
he was,
know.
he was as they say, hobbling around.
Yeah. Well, the hats.
The bouncy castle, my son. The bouncy castle.
He got thrown out for doing flips, didn't he?
Community Services Committee
Sorry, Your
report.
Worship. I just wanted to acknowledge that, and I think there were several of our staff members as well. Did
Oh, yes, there was a number. Sharon Ralph.
Sharon
yes.
Ralph also ran it with her daughter and husband, and that's good to see.
I saw a number of our staff.
Apparently, Andrew Ledwell and I are going to do it.
Next year,
Next year.
Good
Apparently, according to him.
good stuff. My wife also expressed interest.
I have no comment on that yet.
Sounds like a challenge to me.
All right, see what we got here.
Oh, well, if there's money on the line, I'll be there.
We're not going to let Lucy in this time.
Lucy's
I was
not
gonna
getting in on
say,
this one.
You love spending money on this.
Say,
Yeah, because I keep losing. Committee Services report.
sorry. Councillor Tessier never takes this long.
Why, in the summer, we drift.
quick.
Whatever happens.
We have 4 quick items here.
All
Your
right.
Worship. First one, the St. David's Park redevelopment plan.
Yeah.
The committee reviewed. We had an evaluation committee look at proposals that were received, and the evaluation committee recommends awarding to the park plan to Tract Consulting Limited at an estimated project cost of $12,487.07, and that includes HST and administrative costs. And I so move.
Moved and seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Question or comment? When will they begin their work, Deputy Mayor? Do you know?
I'm not sure. Sometime the fall, would I be? Yes. Yeah.
They'll actually begin, and there is going to be an extensive public consultation piece with this, is there?
Yes.
Jason, just to confirm that, if people are going to want to know what we're doing there, you know?
There will be consultations the fall, and the actual plan will be developed the fall. Construction will likely start this spring.
Hopefully by next spring, we'll be actually making changes to St. David's, and that's really a positive development. Thank you. Call the question then, or does anybody else have a comment or question? All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
The next item, Your Worship, is dealing with the Association for the Arts in Mount Pearl. We reviewed the AMP 2011 activities report, and in keeping with the current Memorandum of Understanding, we're recommending approval to release the 2012 operating grant in the amount of $2,500, again, to the Association for the Arts in Mount Pearl, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
The next item, Your Worship, is stirring some interest in the youth here in Mount Pearl. The Element Make It Count 2012 International Skateboard Contest Series that's going to be held at the Mount Pearl Skate and Ride Park this Saturday, actually, July the 28th. And Element Skateboards will be hosting this. And what it is, it's called the Make It Count Contest. It's a series of amateur skateboarding events held throughout the world that's designed to seek out new talent in the skateboarding area and promote several things that Element likes to promote: social awareness, environmental stewardship, and positivity. This is going to be a festival-style atmosphere that will encourage from our youth and participants positivity, camaraderie, and educational opportunities. Anybody interested in participating in this, and I think we will have a big turnout. I'd be shocked if we did not. The entry fee is a non-perishable food item that will be donated to local food banks. The format of the events is a jam-style skate contest. Each event is going to last about 3 hours, and we're encouraging parents, community leaders, and the general public to stay and watch. The overall winner is chosen by a team of judges, including an Element professional. An Element is a maker of skateboards and other skateboard paraphernalia. So the recipient will receive an all-expenses paid trip to the finals at the Element YMCA skate camp in Sierra Nevada. So a great winning prize there.
So it's a winning prize for this event, or is this the overall winning prize?
My understanding was from this event, yes, in Mount Pearl. So one of our participants will be recipient of that. The timeline of events is outlined there, Your Worship. The events, there's 6 there. The first starts at 10 a.m., the last at 4 p.m., and you can see the various best tricks on different obstacles. The last one is the high ollie competition, and I do not pretend to know
what that is.
That's the one I'm in.
That's the one you're in?
That's the one you're in?
I have no idea what an ollie competition is, but it sounds exciting. And again, we're encouraging everyone to come out and watch the kiddies.
Councillor Walsh could explain.
Can you give us an ollie?
No, you have to go down there, check it out 4 o'clock, because if we give away the details, nobody.
Okay. All right.
This is one smart politician, this Walsh, isn't he? What? That's smart. Until the day you don't know.
Then I bail.
The ollie. All right.
That's wonderful, though. Once
Yeah.
again, that plays both into both our tourism strategy and
Absolutely.
our community strategy.
Yep.
We want these competitions of this type coming to Mount Pearl at every possible venue where we can provide them. So, I applaud this. This is wonderful stuff. And somebody is going to go to Sierra Nevada. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when this first came to committee, there was a concern about the upgrades to the Team Goju site down there, but that seems to be going smoothly, and I think it's going to work out. And speaking
Don't
to
jinx us. Don't
some of the
jinx us.
kids, they are absolutely stoked about this. They're pumped about it. They can't wait. So I expect a big turnout down there
I would think.
on Saturday, especially if the weather. And I can't wait to see Councillor Walsh do his ollie. I just can't wait.
Tune in.
The
Tune in.
high
I'm there
ollie
for sure.
competition.
The last item for me, Your Worship, is deals with the Pearlgate track and field athletes. We want to extend congratulations to a team of 17 athletes. They were chosen during the Provincial Legion meet. They're going to represent PEI on August 19th. 9 of these athletes are from the Pearlgate track and field. Jennifer Boland, Mackenzie Harding, Herschel Deshpande, Gerard Power, Julia Howley, Matt Noseworthy, Scott Richards, Nicole Chan, and Shaughnessy O'Driscoll. Congratulations also to 2 Pearlgate athletes who have been chosen to represent the province at the Hershey Final in Hershey, Pennsylvania, August the 12th, Chantel Burns and Ashley Hutchings. So again, this is for information, and congratulations to the accomplishments of these athletes. So it's great news again. We seem to be getting it from various sports now, all of our youth and athletes achieving such high standards. So absolutely. So it's a big deal there. So that's it for me, Your Worship, in terms of that particular committee. Say again?
Okay, well, our next committee is also yours today, Corporate Services Committee.
Yes.
So you can keep on, as they say, rocking
Keep on trucking. Let me turn this bell off, though. Thank you. All right, the first one here is an advertising request from the Royal Canadian Legion, Newfoundland Labrador Command Veteran Service Recognition Book for a quarter-page ad, and this is at a cost of $295, HST included. And we've been doing this for a number of years now. It's the Veterans Service Recognition Book. So, again, it's par for the course what we've been doing, and I move that we proceed with this year.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Aker. Question or comment? All in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion carried.
The next year, Your Worship, has to do with the Municipalities of Newfoundland Labrador Annual Convention. It says here Corner Brook, but I think it's held in Gander this year. I think it should be Gander, yeah? From October 4th to the 6th. And we're recommending approval for Mayor Sims, Councillors Tessier, Walsh, and Ledwell to travel in accordance with our professional development training policy. Again, it's going to be held October 4th in Gander, Newfoundland, Labrador. and I so move.
Moved, seconded. Question or comment? All in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
And the last item for me, Your Worship, has to do with the list of invoices for council approval. We have 17 listed there, totaling $1,148,731.10, and I move that these amounts be accepted as presented.
Moved and seconded. Question or comments, items through to 17? Any questions at all or comment? Hearing none, we'll call it. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
And that's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Economic Development, Communication, Tourism Committee report. Councillor Stoyles.
It's on mute.
I
Sorry.
want to chastise everybody for having their cell phones left on, but I'm frightened to
that?
death mine is.
It was that-
So I got to turn it off, and then I can go.
Mine
Guys,
is-
you got to make sure you put them on vibrate.
It was on. Mine is not working right. So. Sorry about that.
Councillor Stoyles.
We just have a couple of items, mostly for information. The Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce is actually looking for volunteers. They put their new board in place in May, and this is new strategy that they're going, looking for outside people to come. They have 6 committees and 2 outside ad hoc committees, and they're all listed there. They're looking for someone to help with their nominating committee and their best in business, and of course the selection committee for the awards and things like that. So all of it is outlined here in the letter, and just wanted to pass it on to anybody in the community, in the business community that's interested in volunteering with the chamber. They certainly would like to have people volunteer and get online on their website and look at the committees also. Also, Your Worship, Abbey Shoot had their 10th anniversary last Wednesday, and I went up actually on behalf of council. And when they started, they, I guess, make clothing from movies, and they sell it all online. Most of the stuff all the stuff is sold online. When they started, they had a couple of people there. Now they have, I think, 12 to 14 people working outside in their own homes sewing for them. They don't have many people in the building anymore sewing. All they have now is the shipping and the things like that, and now they have it all farmed out to people doing it in their own homes and that. They've been on the go for 10 years, and they said in the next 5 years they're probably going to be opening up a new business and probably doing it's growing so much that they figure they're going to open up their own building in the next 5 years. It's unbelievable how much they have grown, and it was amazing looking at the outfits and that, and it's hard to believe how a small home-based operation could have taken off and grown so big, and wanted to say best of luck to them in the future. And I certainly was delighted on behalf of the city to be there to congratulate them on their 10th anniversary.
So did you get an article of clothing?
I didn't, should I have? I can go back.
You think that'd give
Actually,
you a
what
gift
they
or
did up
something?
there was quite nice. You could pick whatever article of clothing you wanted, and they would do a photo shoot for you. And they're going to send them out to anybody that went to visit. They had a photographer there. Their professional photographer was there, and Adam will be sending out to anybody that came. They had invited a number of people from the business community who they do business with and things like that, and politicians and that. And they were taking pictures, and you could wear whatever costume you wanted to, and they
Wasn't
had
their
everything
first big break the coats that were in the movie Matrix?
Yes.
there. Yes,
Wasn't that the first thing?
yeah.
Keanu Reeves, the long black coats.
And they launched a new coat, I guess they only launch a new article, they said, maybe once a year, and they launched a new piece of clothing at the opening of their 10th anniversary. So
Wow, good stuff.
they had just gotten the movie rights and the rights to make it and all that, and they had just launched it that day. So
Thank you
Great
very
stuff.
much. Thank you. We're going to move on to Engineering Services Committee report. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one item for us this evening. It's an update on the progress with the multiplex construction. Speeding right along, absolutely. I think 2% complete. We're flying, but it started for sure. The first concrete is going to be poured on July 23rd, of course, and the work on the upper parking lot will be starting at that time as well. Now, the existing available parking is going to be further reduced. Now, the project of this size, of course, we're looking at, as Councillor Tessier will often say, a long-term or short-term pain for long-term gain. So we're going to be still losing some more parking up there in the northeast parking area, which is currently still open. But over the next couple of months, we're going to be doing some geothermal well drilling up there. So the contractor's going to have to close off this actual part of the site. Now, we're going to keep the 2 fire doors in the gym open in order to maintain compliance with fire regulations in the gymnasium there. But basically, we're going to have to do some coordination, communication with the staff up at the Reed Centre, and we're going to have to look at some alternative parking options, including using the library parking facilities that are there, perhaps drop and go as we're doing down at the Team Guju complex down here. So we're going to have to look at some alternative options and certainly ask for the cooperation of residents as we go through this construction process. Speaking of parking, parking for the track and field users, right now we're using a small parking lot at the back of the glacier. The plans right now are being implemented to designate this as wheelchair parking only. We're going to be directing all other parking up in the area of the dog park and the ProGate baseball pitch up there. I'm going to be having the parking up there for the rest of the residents, and residents can access the track and field facility through the back gate and come down over the stairs. We're currently in the process of creating some signage to put up in the area so that we can direct people around. People know where they have to go as they enter the facility. And certainly, I think there was a lot of discussion at our committee meeting about using different mediums to communicate this, new parking plan, whether it's through putting it on our website or using the city's Twitter account or what have you, doing our best to communicate to people how to best access the facility.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to see that signage is currently being made for it. We're going to need good signage up there for it. Councillor Aker?
Yeah, thanks. Just a quick thought and a suggestion to the committee. Mount Pearl Minor Hockey will have the registration in about 4 or 5 weeks. Major user of the building, along with the skating club, and they use both rinks quite often, many times. I'm talking about Mount Pearl Minor Hockey. Would we be able to contact the hockey office, or maybe that's already in progress, just to let them know? So when they do their registration, maybe they can hand out something to the hockey registrants that indicates exactly what's going to happen, because they won't be able to park now near the entrance to the new, I'll call it the new extension to the glacier. They're going to have to go up on the parking lot, I guess, we're closer to the dog park. If we could pass it on to the 2 user groups, the 2 major user groups, I think that might go a long way too in helping in the communication piece. Thank you.
That's a good point. Councillor Stoyles?
I was going to say that I was up there for an event last Sunday for a birthday party, and I think what we need to do is people who are renting the facility, to give them a full, they know, some people who call and rent it because they've rented it in the past might not know that, what we're doing.
We're doing a lot of work, yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people come from CBS and Paradise and St. John's that come in to rent that facility for birthday parties, and I was at one of those parties last week, and the people, I don't think they realised how to get in. A lot of people were up there confused because we didn't have the signs up, but at least when we're renting it, we let the people know, look, we're in the middle of construction, we're building a new facility there, and just to let them know that there's a bit of confusion there as well, because we need to let this, the staff needs to pass that on to the renters and give the so they can give direction. I mean, they normally give directions when they're inviting someone to a party how to get there, so it's only a little add on to it then, so they will know.
I agree. Thank you very much. That all for engineering. We're moving to planning and land use. Councillor Aker?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The first item we have here is related to extending a fence site at 41 Spruce Avenue. We had a request from the resident there who has a jacuzzi and is having problems with people sneaking into her back garden, and she's requested that we could put, or if they could put, a 7-foot fence in there, as opposed to the normal 6-foot. So would council please, would they be willing to use its discretion to increase the fence height? The main issue is reducing access to the back garden, as well as providing a safer environment. I'd like to note that even though I'm moving this motion, this is my employer owns this house, so I will not be voting on the motion, and I so move. Can you do that?
I don't believe you can.
I'm not in a conflict of interest.
I don't believe
Unless
you. I don't believe.
It's an
I
appearance
don't
of
believe you're in a
conflict,
conflict of interest either. But I'm going to say that you can't move the motion.
Well, if you'd like to have somebody else move it, that's fine.
I'm
with
going to
me.
recommend that whoever your seconder is move the motion.
Yeah,
Andrew.
fair enough.
Just if that's if
That
just
works
when
for
in
me.
doubt,
Yeah,
let's leave it out.
I want to be
I'm going to
upfront.
recommend that this is, and council appreciates that. I'm sure we're going to. Andrew will, Councillor Led will move the motion. and it will be seconded by the deputy mayor, which is simply recommends the application for a 7-foot fence at 41 Spruce Avenue be approved, with the fence height to be tapered towards the area where it joins with the rear yard fence. It has been moved. It has been seconded. Any question or comment? All in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried with Councillor Aker abstaining from the vote for a potential conflict of interest. Even though I would agree, I don't think you are, but when in doubt.
No, I fully support it, and that's why I brought it up. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay.
Item number 2 here, the city's planning department did a review of most of the properties in the city, primarily residential. And what they're looking for basically is the state of the properties, primarily the lawns, as well as some focus on the buildings and that. They've surveyed 7,810 buildings, which is pretty close to all of the buildings or residential properties in the city. Out of that, only 49 were found to be unacceptable, and you can see some categorization there in the report. Category 1 means that the building was, or the property was well maintained, and that's where a huge majority of properties fell. Category 2, maintenance required. Generally speaking, for example, the lawn height was 6 to 12 inches. Probably needs to be mowed. Could have been someone like me, gone on holidays for 2 weeks, and basically coming back and going to mow it, right? Category 3, though, was overgrown, wild growth. Looks like it's getting no attention. Lawn is over 12 inches or higher. And when you think about this summer, if a lawn is over 12 inches or higher, it probably hasn't been mowed that much. We're not getting any rain to talk about since May. Yes, there you go, right? You know. And then further to that, of the 49 properties that fell in categories 2 and 3, 14 were rental properties and 35 were owner-occupied. And just want to bring that light out because sometimes we believe that rental properties are the only properties not maintained. And although that is the case in some cases, quite often there's as many or more privately owned properties too that are not well maintained. You can see the split there of the 49 properties between 14 and 35. Now the follow-up will begin. City staff will be starting to follow up, issuing notices. And of course, if your lawn was on the report in a category 2 or 3, when staff go to your house to drop off the notice, if your lawn is now mowed, I'm sure they'll have the good sense not to drop off the notice and just drive on to the next resident, right? You know. So I just want to bring that to the attention of council and open the floor if there's any for any comment or questions.
None? All good?
The fact that there is 14 of 49 is still a very high disproportion of the properties are still rentals. It's still indicating a problem.
Oh, for
we
sure.
don't have anywhere close to 25% of the properties in Mount Pearl rental.
No.
No.
Yeah.
14%
But
is
it's
still
more of the focus here is on the good news piece and that people
Yeah.
are maintaining the properties.
Yeah,
The
it
city
is.
does have standards, and neighbors, to be honest, expect other neighbors to sort of live up to a certain standard in keeping care of their property. And I think most people
I'm
do.
sure all members of council hear that all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Whenever we get that kind of complaint, it's usually from someone who has great pride in their property, saying, "I have to live next door to a thing that's an issue for me."
Yeah.
You know, I think overall, yes, it's a very positive news item.
And I think, Your Worship, we tend to focus on the exceptions when they come up when we get a complaint.
That's it.
And sometimes one complaint can look like it's a bigger issue. But I want to commend the department for taking the initiative because this is the time of the year, as you said, we do get these complaints.
Yep.
They've gone out and done the survey. You know, at least for this summer, the myths are now facts. You know what I mean? It's a very, very small percentage that basically is in a state of disrepair. So we'll be following that up, and I want to congratulate the department on the initiative. The next item is 219 Park Avenue, and in this case, they want to subdivide a residential property and deed the property over to the United Church, which is the adjoining property. I'm not sure why the United Church is purchasing this property, except probably be conjecture on my part to say perhaps they may use it for future expansion.
I think that is the case.
Yeah.
parking lot.
When this is done, if it goes through, the property will be consolidated as one. There will be a combined survey done. We've got to go through a municipal plan amendment. Hard to believe that for a small little piece of property like this, we've got to go through, I wouldn't say it's an onerous process, but the process is laid down. The property currently is zoned as part of residential, and the church property, which should be consolidated with, is zoned public services. So we'll need a municipal plan amendment to deal with that. Got to get a consolidated survey done then, and then basically process an application to change the use of this piece of property, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by Councilor Ledwell. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
Next item is 2 Dalton Avenue, where we've got a variance request and a discretionary decision to be made by council. This property here, we've been working with the homeowner at committee and at the departmental level. In basically, they want to extend the house to add a garage to the house. But the side that they want to add the garage to is along a flanking side yard, and there's a street there, of course, it's flanking. And initially, the homeowner came in and wanted to have the driveway, sorry, the entranceway to the garage would be right very close to the property boundary on the side of the property, to the, I guess you'd say, the southwest corner of the property. But what that would mean, as soon as you came out of the garage, you'd be basically right onto the city's right-of-way, which is only about, I think, 3 meters, and you'd be practically onto the road. It just didn't seem to make sense that we would use our discretion to create a situation which could be unsafe. In my limited experience on the committee, we've dealt with a number of these over the years, but we've always expected that, for example, there would at least be a car length coming out of a garage coming onto the city's right-of-way, and this did not initially fit the bill. So what the homeowner was asked is that what they would do is keep the garage in the same location, but put the garage door on the back. So they'd swing into the property further south, and they'd come into like a bit of a right-hand turn, a left-hand turn into the garage. The garage is to be used to store a car. It's not going to be used frequently. So at the back of the garage, at the back of this garage and the driveway, we require 3% variance, and we also require council's discretion to vary. I think it's an 8-meter flanking side yard, to vary that. And as you can see from the drawing there, what the resident is asking for, this is what I call the black drawing, is a 1.83 meter side yard, flanking street side yard. Just bear with me as I scope this out. Plus, in addition to that, there's also a 8.53 meter. Am I right in saying that, folks? What's the? I guess my question is, what is the city's right-of-way? 4 meters? On the left of the property, 4 meters in the city's right-of-way.
Mr. Yefchak?
Your Worship, I'm going to say it's probably approximately 2.5, 3 meters in that location.
Right. Okay.
And that is adequate?
Yeah. And Councillor Ledwell and I have both gone up to the property and had a look at it, and it doesn't seem, if we do it this way, there'd be any safety concern. There will be a fence along the garage, and there's a gate there anyway. So there's no issue with snow. Yeah. There's no issue with snow load. Nothing has changed. The city's right-of-way might be the issue. If the city at some time in the future was planning on putting a sidewalk there, right? But that house, that development's been there for about 30, 40 years. We've never put sidewalks in. We're not planning to. So it seemed reasonable to approve this, right? You know, so we've gone through a public consultation process where we asked all the neighbors, advertised in the telegram, notified all the MHAs and that. We had no negative feedback coming back from that process. So here today, we'd like to ask council to use its discretion. The variance is very small, the 3% variance, to use its discretion with regards to the flanking street yard, side yard, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
The next item is confirmation of an order issued reclassing cars at 5 to 7 Mount Carson Avenue. That order has been issued for some work that's been done without permission, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. Questions?
Yeah, I'm just wondering.
Councillor Stoyles.
I didn't notice work being done up there. I'm just wondering, was it on the back of the property or was it in the front? In the front of the property. And they're stopped now, I'm assuming, right? Or have they come and got a permit? I'm just wondering.
Your Worship, what this issue is, as part of the road upgrading on Mount Carson Avenue, some of the properties that this property in particular had some of their pavement, I guess, affected by the upgrading. And so they, the contractor for the road for the city is in the process of reinstituting that pavement. But in addition to that, the property owner has now looked at extending or replacing the asphalt further back from the work that the contractor's doing. And secondly, they were on their front lawn where they were parking vehicles. They've taken up the front lawn, putting in gravel, trying to create parking in the front lawn area of the building, for which no permits have been issued. And as a result, an order was issued because they were ready to actually pave the entire piece,
Including the front?
including the front. Correct.
Because they've been parking vehicles there for probably 4 or 5 years now.
Correct. And what has happened, he has now got he made application for the paving.
He has made application now.
For the two sides, yes, he has, but the front piece, he's going to be bringing in a site plan. He's delaying that work a bit later, bringing a site plan to show us how he's going to actually develop that, because now, rather than pave the whole piece, he's now thinking of having a couple of kind of display units on the
For
front,
the cars, yeah.
like that you see on Kemont Road.
Yeah, I'm here. We'll call a question on this then. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Seems like orders work, don't they? Hey, right? Issue an order, and all of a sudden, site plans start coming in. Hey,
There
there's
you
something
go.
about that, isn't there? Hey? Okay. Next item, Your Worship, is the development permit list, July 9th to the 20th. Permits 38 through 41 are listed here, and I so move.
Move the development permit list. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
For the same period, we have residential building permits in the amount of $478,593. And Your Worship, if you would, we also have 100 and, was it? Sorry, guys. Trying to find it as I move it.
Building construction commercial.
857,690 in commercial permits. And the biggie on the back is the Public Works, and I think that's $31 million and change. For the Smallwood multiplex, it's $31,300,000. I'd like to move all three of those, Your Worship. Thank you.
Moved, seconded. Questions? All those in favor? Contrary minded? And the motion is carried. That concludes committee reports. We are up to new business. We will start over here. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one item, and of course, as many of us know, we just finished celebrating the 24th annual Mount Pearl City Days, and I think we all had a fantastic weekend. I know Council was out at all or many of the activities, and I just want to pass along congratulations and thanks to all the volunteers involved and all the sponsors. Certainly couldn't do it without any of those folks. It was a great weekend. I do want to single out the organizing committee, however, because they do such wonderful work, and they start just after Christmas, or at the very least just after the Frosty Festival, meeting on a weekly basis, trying to make this thing happen, and they punch in long hours leading up to and during the event. So I'd just like to pass on a thank you to Megan Drodge, Kendra Lester, Lynn Sparks, Larry Smallwood, Roger Coombs, Chef Steve Watson, and of course from our staff, Community Services, Krista Tucker, Angela Whitten, and Sarah Kennedy, who do such wonderful work on behalf of the city. So thank you and congratulations on a wonderful weekend to those people. And that's it for me.
Thank you very much. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have several issues. First of all, I want to just congratulate Newman Sound, the choral group. Some of you know Sean Carroll. Sean is the music director at Hannah O'Donnell. He was part of that choir, and they just won an international competition. I don't recall where. In fact, I tried to reach him today, but what an honor and what an opportunity for them to travel internationally and to get to perform and to compete, and what an extra thrill it must be to sort of win an event of that magnitude. So just congratulations to them, and they're a men's choir, and of course Newfoundland and Labrador hosts a huge choir festival each and every year, and the talent, particularly for vocals in the province, is unbelievable. So congratulations to them. Last evening, Your Worship, we held what was scheduled to be the final public consultation related to the Ruth Avenue School Zone traffic study. It involved the 4 schools. Unfortunately, we had a very small turnout of the public, and I'm sure it's not at all reflective of the level of interest or concern that takes place.
It's reflective of the season.
Yeah, it's reflective of the season. We had I think the first public presentation was sometime in June, and I swear we had an equally beautiful evening that night. It was one of the first beautiful long evenings that we had, and so we're batting a very low average in terms of turnout. So what we've decided to do yesterday afternoon when we had the presentation to council, and also conveyed that message last night to the public meeting. And it was, I think, a great idea, a great suggestion to have one more opportunity. I thought that the consultants themselves might have wanted to clue up this work and get on with the completion of the report, but they agreed to it, and they're going to have a consultation in September, because obviously when everybody's back to school and the parents are, particularly the new parents, but even the returning parents and students in the school, their levels of interest and frustration will be exceedingly high at the beginning of the school year, and I think that's the time to get their input, and their input is very, very important. I mean, these are the people who on a daily basis have to access these school lots and deal with the traffic and the congestion and the safety concerns that are raised, and it's for them that we're actually partnering with the Eastern School District to complete this particular study. There was representation from the Eastern School District there, and we did take the opportunity to remind the few people who were in attendance that this is not an issue that we can resolve as a city. This is really private property. It is administered by and owned by the Eastern School District, and most of the problems pertaining to bus flows, traffic, congestion, safety are really concerns on the school sites. They do impact us, however, because all of the traffic and the school buses empty into our streets, and some of the traffic flows that we're actually forcing onto the streets were creating havoc in some of the neighboring areas. So we had an opportunity for input. The Avalon, or the Eastern School District, has a has a tremendous stake in this, because it is their property, and we'll see what happens in September. But Hatchmont McDonald did the presentation. They have some good recommendations there, but it's going to take an awful lot of things happening all at the same time to show a marked improvement. The simple truth is we're not reducing the number of children in the schools. There's about 2,500 students in those 4 schools. There is nowhere else in the province that you have as many schools in that small congested area. It doesn't exist. It used to be close to that on Bonaventure Avenue at one point in time, but that has changed substantially now, and now with just 3 schools there and much smaller, this would be by far the busiest school site, concentrated school site anywhere in the province. So that's for the future again. So that won't clue up now until it won't. The downside is it won't clue up for the start of the school year. We were hoping that we might be able to implement some of the strategies and the recommendations prior to the commencement of the school year, but because of that public consultation piece, that'll be delayed perhaps until October.
I can't disagree with doing that. Those critical.
It is an important.
That there be a legitimate public consultation.
Yeah.
You know, so good on the consultants for doing that, and for the committee for recommending another public meeting. It makes sense.
We'll do that and see how that goes. Your Worship, when I was at the City Days event on Sunday, and I was talking to a couple of people who were on the Soccer Association, because they do the barricades each and every year and do a great job with that. There was some good news conveyed, and unfortunately I was away and I missed the national tournament that they were hosting. Both divisions, I think, were won by Ontario teams, but the level of competition was tremendous. The Team Atlantic represented the Atlantic region exceedingly well. People were very, very impressed, and why wouldn't they be, with both the facilities. And we had tremendous weather, except for I think the opening day was a little bit damp, but other than that,
it was a little chilly, but not bad. If you had a jacket, you were fine.
Yeah, it was good, but it was just beautiful weather. The facilities were top notch, and many of the participants commented on that. You know, we'd love to have 3 or 4 side-by-side facilities like that. Some provinces have them, but for others, we were the envy, and it's good to see that. The one issue that they conveyed by way of a little disappointment was, of course, they were hosting this national tournament at the same time that we were doing some major construction. I thought that we were completing or trying to complete the entrance and the pavement of the main entrance and the upper part of the lot prior to that tournament. Did that get delayed, Mr. Antle, or what happened with that?
Mr. Randall?
The focus was to to try and get the access road complete. There was some delays in delivery of the culvert and some dewatering issues. We did manage to get that access road maintained and open.
Yep.
That's where the focus went to. It wasn't on trying to get the upper parking lot paved. It was on the access road.
Okay. So that we delivered on, which is great. I was just wondering for my kids, I really wasn't able to respond to them because I couldn't remember whether we said we were going to have the road paved in through and the upper portion. That's what I thought I remembered. Or not, so I didn't say anything. But it was a rough time. But I guess really all we can do is, again ask them to be understanding, because this really is and really will be short-term pain for long-term gain. And that facility, once the blacktop is on that, and that goes right through the roadway, and the paving is done around that site, that will be remarkable. And particularly when we can line the parking afterwards, we'll have so much additional parking there, and that will, if they were impressed with the facilities then, they'll be even more
just wait,
impressed once that's totally finished. A couple of other quick things, Your Worship. I have no idea what Chinese lanterns are, but the St. John's Regional Fire Department have banned them because apparently they resemble small hot air balloons, and they're fueled by a candle flame, and because of the dryness, these devices are now prohibited anywhere within the coverage area of the St. John's Regional Fire Department. That also includes, by the way, Paradise, because we provide backup support for Paradise as well, and Paradise apparently have been involved with some use of these Chinese lanterns. Are others more familiar with them? Because
As they heat up, they float away, just like a balloon.
But I've never seen them.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
And
So
raises it.
instead of using the helium, and they use a candle power. And
Open flame is
anyway,
the
so
issue.
that's that. They're banned until further notice. The big concern, Your Worship, pertains to water usage, and while we are delighted to have such a beautiful summer of weather, and probably the best that we've had in a long, long time, even if it were to end today, we probably had more sunshine, more heat, and better temperatures than we've had any year for the past 5 years at least, but probably much longer than that. But on Sunday evening, we had an incredible spike in our water usage. In fact, it doubled, and that even presented a concern for some of the regional water authorities. They contacted the city, and they wondered what, in fact, was going on. They
Thought we had a leak.
Thought we had a major leak, in fact, because that would be a major leak. When you double your consumption, that's an incredible increase. So to put this in perspective,
there was no leak.
There was no leak. What was happening, apparently, is that there was probably not a legitimate water usage, so I can't use the word legitimate, but there was an increased water usage on Sunday evening in Mount Pearl that probably should not have been happening. I can't say that for sure, because there is an allowance for some watering, and I want to just highlight the two things. Number one, the fact that the water conservation order, not the ban, but the water conservation order continues to be in effect throughout
year-round,
the entire year. But it's at this particular period in time, during dry periods, and even if it weren't a dry summer, these are the times when we use, the rainwater and the dishwater and the other things for plants, vegetable gardens, and as much as possible, lawns will, in a very, very short period of time, they'll regroup, and with a little drop of rain, we worry so much about them because I guess our season is so short, but it really is disheartening when you drive through neighborhoods, even if it's within compliance with the conservation order, and you see people watering their lawns for hours and half watering the streets. It's almost irritating. And Sunday night, because the conservation order for us is even street numbers on Wednesday and Saturday, and then odd street numbers on Wednesday and Sunday, we should have only had a small portion of railroad, half the residents, I guess, could have had the opportunity between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. to water lawns, unless almost every single house had their systems on. And that wasn't the case, I can assure you, because I was one who didn't, and many people on our street didn't. But that's a huge spike, and we have to do better than that. The issue is I guess the major issue is with regards to pressure. Because we're on the front of the line, if we consume huge amounts of water, particularly all at the one time, we are significantly impacting pressure loads and the availability of pressure down the line. So Mount Pearl in particular, because of its location as a first service stop in the line system, we really do have an impact on communities like Paradise, and Portugal Cove. St. Phillips is actually downstream to that. Paradise affects Portugal Cove, St. Phillips, and we affect Paradise. So we can really have an adverse effect on pressure in communities. And I guess even, I know it's a separate line, but the primary line, even for CBS, can be impacted. I'm not sure that pressure would, though, because of the tank. It might be, though. So we have to be cognizant of that. The water levels are still reasonably good, despite the heat. We're at 32.5 feet right now. But if you see this graph, there's a steady decline, and understandably so, since May. When we had the ban a number of years ago, just to put this in perspective, we bottomed out at 28 feet. So we're getting treacherously close to, we've dropped 5 feet in a matter of 2 months. So we're getting close to a period of time.
Another 2 weeks of this and we're there.
We could be there. But we could be there, in fact, a lot quicker if we continue to have, issues with non-compliance of residents. So please, only water during the prescribed times that I've already articulated. And if you can do it at all, use the rain barrels, use the other, recycled water from dishes and a bath and that sort of thing, because we really have to be careful using potable water and just throwing it on our lawns and gardens. There are other more acceptable ways to do it this day and age, and we have to be very, very careful. If we don't do that, particularly here in Mount Pearl, we could very easily face the potential of a water ban because of our strategic location on the system as it feeds through. So I want to highlight that. It's very, very important, and I ask residents, in fact, I urge residents to conserve, to pay attention to this. When you get a call like we got on Sunday, that's somewhat alarming, and when you get a 100% spike in water usage, that's indicative of a problem. So we need to do a little bit better than that. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Councillor, Deputy Mayor.
We need to get that message out, on the media. Like, I don't know if we can arrange where.
I know a guy got a talk show who's going to interview him tomorrow.
I was just going to suggest that perhaps.
He's already told him before he came to council.
Councillor Walsh,
you're getting interviewed in the morning.
Because I really believe that people don't know about when they can use their sprinklers. I really believe that.
Oh, I'm convinced
that
of it.
there are some.
Understand the effects either.
Yeah, there's a percentage out that legitimately, like I just had some people move in next door to me, for example, and they had their sprinkler on last evening. Now, I didn't see them, but I printed off our regulations, and I'm just gonna let them know for their own benefit, so they don't get ticketed, because I think it's legit. They're new to Mount Pearl, and I'm pretty certain that they don't realize they're trying to beautify their property. So I think we need that message out. So if you're going to talk to our radio host tomorrow, I think that's a good move. So thank you.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a little chat about it, because it's not only just us. It is Mount Pearl, but we're a significant part of that regional water system.
It's raising the level of consciousness.
And just raise the level of awareness about the reality of what people are doing. I got talked to on Sunday. I don't know if it was Councillor Stiles or Councillor Ledwell was with me. Two ladies came up to us to talk about their neighbor had their sprinkler running. That was you, was it, Dave? Had their sprinkler running all weekend. And I said, well, you need to tell us. We can send the municipal enforcement officer up there and shut that off. We can do that. And if we have to, we will. Now, we don't want to do that kind of thing. I'd rather think that, our people cooperate. Mr. Randall, you look like you want to jump into the fray here. Not really. Oh, I thought you had your hand on your mic there.
There was something that I should have said, because it is about enforcement. I think when we get this close to a water ban, that we really should. I think it'd be a tremendous use of our municipal enforcement officers to actually get out, to be vigilant, to be driving through neighborhoods, and to be gently and even not so gently reminding people that you can't do that. I think that would be a good use of our resources right
Absolutely.
now. As you say, we're not interested in ticketing people or issuing fines, but we are really interested in compliance, and we are really interested in educating the public about the impact of what they're doing, because I think Deputy Mayor Locke is right. People are doing it mindlessly. I don't think they're doing it to be malicious or
No,
intentionally
not at all.
doing it, but
I think they're
when-
doing it.
when you
They
see
think they're
the-
saving their lawns.
yeah, when you see the enforcement officers visible in your neighborhood and they knock on one door, that message goes to everybody, and it spreads like wildfire. And I think that would be a great use of our resources. I think we should, Mr. Collins, I think it would be a wise use of resources to perhaps, increase the level of vigilance right now with municipal enforcement on the watering of lawns and that sort of thing, because I think we're crossing a line now where people are seeing their lawns dry up, and now they're saying, well, I might as well put some water on it, and they're just not thinking, and that's it.
That's it. Thank you very much. Councillor Stoyles.
A couple of things, Your Worship. I want to pass off my sympathies to the Hodge family. Will works with us, and his mum passed away.
Yes,
and
Flavia.
wanted to pass that along and pass along our sympathies. Also, the cemetery mass is taking place tonight. The Holy Sepulchre Cemetery Mass, and of course I've received a couple of phone calls today about ticketing that, and we are not giving tickets out. We'd certainly ask people when they pull in the park to try and get off of the road and be courteous.
Do not block access.
Try
That's
to
all.
try not to, no, don't block access, because we want people to be able to get into the cemetery, because they are letting cars in to drop seniors off and that until 6 o'clock, I understand, and we want people to be able to get access in there, because a lot of people can't walk too far. So I think they only let them in until 6, and then again they go back and pick them up after the service is over.
Going to
So
be a
it
big
just-
turnout tonight too, given the weather.
It's going to be a
I
big
think so.
turnout tonight. Also, Your Worship, I wanted to mention City Days. It certainly was a great event, as always. And next year, of course, is going to be our 25th year. And I'm assuming we're going to be doing something bigger and better for next year for our 25th. Hard to believe 25 years has gone by, but, I mean, time flies. Also, Your Worship, wanted to pass on Gord Collins, one of our staff, is going to be retiring. We've had a number of retirees in the past year, and
He's
just
gonna be
one
here
a couple of weeks ago, and I just wanted to pass on best wishes to Gord, and sure he's going to enjoy his life and his bike and that now when he's retiring, and wanted to pass that along. And also, Your Worship, we talked about Telly Den. I think there was 9 staff people, to my understanding, that works with the city that did the Telly Den, and Jason Silver, one of our senior staff. It was 9 staff, that is my understanding, that did the Telly Den, and all of them finished it. Every one of them finished it. I spoke to Sharon Ralph, and she said she's the one that told me it was 7 or 8 done it, and great
Good for
job
them.
to see everybody out and taking an active role,
Including
and
you.
staying healthy. Yes, I did. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Aker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of things. I just wanted to add the same thoughts about City Days. I think the organizing committee and the city staff did a fine job. The weather cooperated. The pig roast, it was a bit cool, but the food was good and the times are great. And I think the staff and the group that organized it are to be commended.
Deputy Mayor
commended.
Locke is the best pork carver we have.
Really?
Councillor Stoyles is the fastest, but she's also the most dangerous, as I can. I was stuffing the buns, as it were, next to her,
In my way.
and I want to tell you something. You could
Your
bleed.
Worship? What do you mean?
She was, yeah, exactly. You could end up with nothing but a bleeding stump if you got in her way. But the deputy mayor actually had a presentation made out of his. It was very nice. But Councillor Stoyles fed the most. That's all I'm going to say.
And there was plenty to go around.
We had lots too.
We had lots of food,
Yeah.
yeah. The last item, the second item I have, Your Worship, is the intersection at Old Placentia Road in Smallwood. The line markings were laid out earlier in the year, but the lines have not been drawn or sprayed, I guess. Is there any particular reason for that? I had a resident today ask me why there's a delay. Maybe it's maybe the director, he's nodding his head, he has an answer. Thank you.
Mr. Antle?
It's a good question.
That's the new
And
stuff.
I
we're
hope it
putting on.
has a good answer. We were marking out the lines. We brought it to the attention of council that we had an opportunity. We wanted to explore doing a thermoplastic line painting project at one of the intersections in the city.
And that was the one, right?
That's the selected intersection. The material has been ordered. It'll be here, we expect, next week. The applicator has to come. It's not from Newfoundland. The material comes from outside of Newfoundland. The applicator has to come here and oversee our line painting contractor to ensure it's applied correctly. It's a product that has a very long lifespan, we expect, so we want to apply it correctly at that intersection.
You wouldn't want to put paint down.
We also don't want to have paint down because we'd have to mill it off to apply the line painting material, this thermoplastic material. What we are going to do in the meantime, though, is put temporary line dabbing up there in the next couple of days to at least make an awareness of the traffic lanes that are there. We expect to have the lines painted or thermoplasticked, if that's a phrase, by the end of August. So it's a bit of ways away yet.
There you go.
Short-term pain, I guess, for long-term.
Well, boys, how long can we say that? I suppose as long as we're building stuff, we can say it. Short-term pain for I don't know how many residents I have said that to in the last 3 months, especially.
The Workville Park Avenue.
Right? Yeah, they love us
No,
now.
Workville Park Avenue. I mean, look how good Park Avenue is.
That's right. That's it.
Carson
That-
as well, Mount Carson.
yeah, Mount Carson looks fabulous, by the way. It really does.
It looks great.
Deputy Mayor.
That was a good question, because I was going to ask Director Antle the same question there.
This was Stump the Director, was it?
No, it wasn't Stump the Director.
I know, I saw it.
I too want to first of all extend condolences to Willie Hodge and his family. I know Willie now for the past 25 years. I coached his two boys playing hockey many years ago, so I want to echo the sentiments presented by Councillor Stoyles here as well. Also, with respect to City Days, Councillor Ledwell, acknowledged the committee, and one thing that always impresses me every year is they put in such long hours, but they're always so pleasant. They're always so pleasant, right up to the last song that the Navigators are playing. They're out dancing, they're cheerful. Man, they just carry that high spirit, which is great to see. So again, kudos to the committee and everyone else involved.
Here, here.
Another thing I wanted to mention about City Days, I know the guy I'm going to mention, Brian Buddy's his name. He wouldn't want me to do this, but I had to acknowledge this. We were up to the Powers Pond festivities on Saturday,
Yep.
and Sonia Lehman and some other ladies were barbecuing, and they ran out of propane. And of course, the traffic up there, none of the city crew could easily get out. So Brian's property is right across the way. So I went over and said, Brian, I'm looking for a bit of propane. And he said, geez, Jim, I just took my 2 tanks off. They're empty. I don't have a stain. So he said, why? I said, when I explained it, he darted down with his 2 tanks. He said, tell them I'll be there in 10 minutes. He scooted down, filled it up, brought it back, hooked it up for the ladies, bled their lines. So I just thought it was a very nice gesture, and that's what City Days is all about. And that was just a great
That's
example.
what we celebrate. Is
Absolutely.
That sense of community.
Absolutely. And he didn't bat an eyelash. As soon as he had a broken arm. He's in pain because he snapped his arm a couple of days previous, but no questions asked. So I know Brian is going to, give me grief for bringing this up, but I just wanted to publicly mention that because, again, that is just an example of what life is like in
Let's
the city
send
of
him a
Mount
little
Pearl.
note.
Absolutely.
Let's send him a
it'd be
little
nice.
note.
Yeah,
Say
I
thank
think it would
you
be
for
nice. Indeed.
Brian.
The other thing Councillor Walsh mentioned about our transportation study last evening, and there was a resident there, I think Mr. Corbett was his name? Bob Corbett.
Bob, yeah.
And he mentioned the intersection again at 4th Street and the light there at 4th Street and Ruth. And he was very passionate about this, about the near misses. Understanding he's a retired firefighter and stuff like that.
He is.
And I just want to throw it out there to the director and the committee perhaps. And Councillor Aker and I were speaking of this afterwards. And one thing that they have in place, because how he described it as a sort of a blind turn. And he said cars are coming down there at extreme speeds, and when they make the turn, he said they're not reacting quickly enough for the light. And he said he's seen cars go through the red light, with little kiddies with their backpacks on. That's his biggest concern about the safety of the children there. And I know since my time on council, we've looked at it, and Councillor Walsh explained that to him. But I'm just wondering, could we do something like we did there on Commonwealth Avenue, when you're coming sort of over the crest of Commonwealth heading north, and you pass by, the RBC and Barclays there, and they've put an extra light over to the left by Kentucky Fried Chicken, and that at least alerts the driver. So I don't know if there's any way that we could do a similar thing where we could move a traffic light, further up Ruth Avenue so the traffic can see it, so they can see if the light is red before they enter that bend. Because several people have mentioned to me that they like that light down by Kentucky Fried Chicken because it lets them know in advance what the traffic light is showing. So I just want to throw that out there.
And if that was a solution, we should go for that.
If I could just...
Okay, Councillor Walsh?
I think what Mr. Corbett had been asking for in the past and what was studied in the past was actually a full signalized intersection for that intersection.
Yeah.
That was looked at at least 2 or 3 times, and I did respond to because he is very passionate about it, and he doesn't even have any children anymore. He's concerned about everyone else's children for the most part right now, and he's very passionate. But the best professional advice that we were getting was that to actually put a signalized intersection there would encourage use in a very unsafe area and would complicate rather than relieve traffic congestions and problems there. And of course, it's all further complicated by the fact that it is on that turn. Putting a light there, but not putting a fully signalized intersection may be the compromise that could be done. But I just wanted to reiterate that the prayer of his petition always was a fully signalized intersection, and that's really not a good place for it. I don't think you even have to be a professional or a traffic expert to know that on that kind of a blind turn, it's not a good location for it. You wanted to make a comment?
If I could just speak to it a
Mr.
little
Reynolds?
bit. I've done some sight distance calculations and intersection designs in my past career. One of the main things we always find is that we design it for a posted speed, a design speed. Mm-hmm. And most often what I've seen lately is most of the traffic speeds are beyond the posted speed. I mean, speeding is an evident concern. Coming down Ruth Avenue, you'll see it every day. I mean, if we put our traffic camera there, very few people are driving at posted speed of 50 kilometers an hour. And that's what's creating some of this sudden coming up on top of an intersection. Right. So I think there's a certain, we can go over and put flashing warnings and things like this. It's not a bad idea. But I do think we've got a significant speeding problem throughout the city on our main streets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Point well taken. Point well taken.
The speeding is a separate issue that we spoke of at earlier meetings as well. But I just thought about, we wouldn't have to put a full-fledged, but at least the people can see, that it's a red light. And that's the beauty of it down there on Commonwealth Avenue. So I just throw that out there as a point of consideration. It may help. It may help. It certainly can't hurt.
Bottom line, it can't hurt. It might help. Yeah.
And I don't know what the expense would be, so I'll throw it out to the committee there. And the last thing I want to bring up, Your Worship, has to do with an email I received, again, from one of our youth athletes, Gavin Dyke, the swimmer. And I won't read the full thing here, but it says Gavin Dyke sets 3 new provincial records at Swim Canada's Summer National Competition. 16-year-old swimmer Gavin Dyke from Mount Pearl, Maryland, has just finished up an outstanding competition. There was attended by 477 of Canada's top swimmers, and he was the only representative from Newfoundland. And he beat, I think he established 3 new provincial records, and bested or topped his own personal bests in several events. He is now traveling to Calgary, where he joins 5 of his teammates from the Marylands, as well as swimmers from St. John's and CBS, for another competition that's going to involve 1,600 swimmers. So this competition is running from July 25th to the 29th. And this was sent by his the head coach of Mount Pearl Marylands, Duffy Earl. So again, I just want to acknowledge that publicly. Apparently this guy Gavin, I don't know him personally, but he's like a fish. And, you know, there's talks about you may see him at the Olympics in years to come. So kudos. Yeah, congratulations to Gavin. I just wanted to mention that publicly. And that's
Thank
it from
you,
me,
sir.
Your Worship. Thank you.
That concludes everything. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Stoyles. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.